Okay, we'll go ahead and get started then. Welcome again to everybody. My name is John Regan. I'm a product marketing manager here at Park Place Technologies, and I'll be acting as your host today. And we want to thank you for joining us for our webinar, not just for end of service life support, how to leverage third-party hardware maintenance after your original OEM warranty expires. Before we begin today's webinar, just a few points of housekeeping. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be distributed after the event via email. So if you'd like to share this with your team or review a certain section of the webinar, you can use that link. And if at any point during this webinar you have a question for our panel, please enter it using the Q&A feature in the Teams webinar as well. There'll also be some polls taking place throughout this webinar, so keep an eye out for those screens to populate within the Teams app, and you can answer and engage with those. Joining me today, we have our speakers, Jason Allen, Director of Complex Solutions, John Stock, Senior Vice President of Global Sales, and Nicola Buckley, Executive Vice President of Global Service and Delivery. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. John, feel free to take control of the deck and take us away.
All right, thanks, John. And again, appreciate everybody joining here. So I wanted to walk you through a typical IT lifecycle example. Now, everybody's very, very familiar with this, but when you buy a server, you buy a storage array, a networking device, it comes with a 3-year warranty, and that's built in the cost of the initial hardware purchase. And then once the warranty expires, the manufacturers, they tend to artificially increase the cost of maintenance to incent their customers to buy new hardware, because at the end of the day, they're all manufacturing companies who want to push new hardware out the door. That's their primary revenue stream. And if you do extend the life of the equipment with the manufacturer, they're going to break their support in a couple of different categories. You have hardware support, you have software technical support, and you have access to software updates. And they leverage that third component of it, access to the software updates or licensing restrictions or audit threats, as the crutch or the reason why you need to keep those devices under the original manufacturer's initial support. And then once year 5 comes around, that's where the products become end of life. And by year 7, once it ages 7+ years, that's when they deem the device's end of service life, meaning that you can no longer extend the life of that equipment or renew a support contract with the manufacturer. But we're here to tell you what the reality of it is. And you look at any leading advisory firm out there, whether it be Gartner, IDC, Forrester Research, is they've been talking about this terminology for a long, long time. And it's had various different naming conventions. Sometimes it's been called bimodal IT or circular IT or bifurcating your infrastructure, which I happen to like the term bifurcate. It sounds fancy, but it's the practice of managing two separate but coherent styles of work. So one focused on predictability and the other focused on exploration. In the most simplistic form, you should, this theory tells you that you should treat different pieces or different parts of your infrastructure differently. 80% of your infrastructure is adequate for the business use and the business function that's currently performing in today. And the rest of it could be exploratory. So you can focus your attention on the 20% and get potentially 90% of the gains of focusing on everything. So, a fair summary would be to focus your spending on what's absolutely going to move your business forward and move the needle, and keep the other portion of it running as long as it possibly can. I get asked this, I leverage this in terms of we're talking to customers all the time, is that the Cisco advertised mean time to failure, so mean time between failure, on a Cisco catalyst switch that the OEM tells you has a lifespan of 5 to 7 years. They advertise that it's actually 233,000 plus hours, which if you translate that into days or years, it's 26.6 years. So if you leverage Park Place and put the 80-20 rule into practice, this life cycle looks a lot different. So you buy a device from the OEM, it's still going to come with a 3-year warranty. After the warranty expires, we come into play, provide a much more cost-effective and flexible alternative versus renewing your support agreements with the manufacturer. From a cost perspective, we range between 30 to 40% less, because unlike the OEM, we're not going to try to artificially increase the cost of maintenance to incent you to buy new equipment. And like I mentioned earlier, and that's on the screen right now, is that they break their support in a couple of different categories. You have the hardware support, you have the software technical support, and you have access to the software updates. Well, working with Park Place, We can provide you with a full hardware replacement support. That's going to be up to and including a full unit replacement. So no matter what component failure up and goes down within the system, we have you covered. In terms of the software technical support, we have, which I know the rest of the presenters are going to talk about it further, but we have engineers that we hire from the OEM. Average tenure is about 15 plus years, and they're experts in a particular product line. So they can provide configuration assistance, they could troubleshoot, they could diagnose, they could address any type of how-to questions on the software that we're currently running on your existing hardware. And in terms of the software update component, the last component on the screen right now, what a lot of customers don't necessarily realize because they've been, again, artificially told certain things from the manufacturers is that a lot of the software updates out there in the market space are available publicly. When you look at x86 servers, whether it be a Dell PowerEdge server, HP ProLiant server, Cisco UCS servers, you have the IBM Legacy X Series servers, Lenovo ThinkSystem servers. Moving over to networking equipment, you still have a lot of the LAN switches out there. So Catalyst 2000 to 4000 series, Cat 9Ks, is that software updates are made available to you regardless of your contract status with the OEM. So again, you get access to it freely, independent of an OEM support contract. And the rest of the gear out there, you have to keep in mind that we pick up support after the original 3 manufacturer's warranty expires, where updates at that point in time become more few and far between because of the age of the equipment. And we help educate customers to make educated decision in terms of looking at key milestone dates, such as in a software development life. So about roughly half to even 70% of a client's estate might not even be eligible to get at, or you get it freely independent of a service contract with the OEM. And there's a tool that I'm going to walk you through a little bit further in the presentation here, that it does help customers make good strategic buying decision by looking at certain milestone dates for customers. And with this strategy, you look at each device type and you come up with a life cycle that's appropriate. You end up with roughly about 80% of your estate living much longer. You invest in technology that is changing and changing rapidly, whether it be security or wireless or data center switching. And it's not just about the money. I think people look at just the pure hard savings, but it's also about the risk. So anyone that has done a big networking deployment out there or a big networking upgrade, the CapEx spend is probably the least impactful component of your project, because every time you replace gear, you have costs, you have downtime, you have project management work, you have outsourced labor with, let's say, for example, data migrations or installation services or intercompatibility issues. It's the whole bathtub theory. But by keeping what's working, you avoid or at least minimize a lot of these headaches out there. And you might be asking why you haven't heard this strategy or why the customers not necessarily are adapting this as rapidly. It's because of my point earlier that at the end of the day, the OEMs out there, they're all manufacturing companies. They make their money by selling you things wrapped in cardboard. And the OEMs, they dictate arbitrarily the life cycle strategy that many of you follow today. And I think the most, I guess the most relatable example out there is the iPhones. You know, I'm an iPhone user. Is that iPhone 15? I think that's the most recent version of iPhone that's been released to the market. It's a great product out there, but in my opinion, it's probably incrementally better, and not necessarily game changing. Here's the assessment I was talking about earlier, and I'm going to again walk you through a live example of it. But we have 30 years worth of history to provide you with a consultative approach. We go line by line, device by device, and tell you which devices have free software access. We look up all those different milestone dates I talked about earlier in terms of which ones are reached the end of the software development life stage, which one's in a vulnerability security date, which one's in a service life. And this is just one example of a Cisco that I'll walk you through, but same strategy applies for the server and storage environment. But we make it easier for customers to help determine which strategy makes the most sense for their business. I mean, this is what we do. Again, 30 plus years of history, 21,500 customers out there. Support over half of the Fortune 500, recognized by all the different leading advisory firms out there as a global leader. But at the end of the day, this is what we do. We help our customers make educated decision versus relying on some of the OEM mandates out there. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna switch my screen here, and I'm gonna walk you through a sample assessment. Again, this is just one component of it. This is just our networking estate assessment, but same applies for servers and storage. So don't wait till end of life. We can pick up support a heck of a lot sooner. All right. Hoping that you can all see it right now.
Yep, we've got it, John.
All right, perfect. So this is a client's networking estate. They sent us a list of about 2,300 devices, and we fit those 2,300 devices into 3 different categories: eligible, qualify, ineligible. Out of the 2,300, 1,860 of them fit the first bucket, which I'll explain why it fits that first eligible bucket in a second here. If this customer to renew these 1,860 devices with the manufacturer, they'd be paying about $3.45 million annually. 163 of them, they could go either way, depending on asking some additional qualification questions or maybe having the client run some additional command outputs to determine which bucket they should ultimately fall in, whether it be eligible or ineligible. Out of the 163, if this client were to renew these with the manufacturer, they'd be paying a list price about $655,000. Now, in terms of what our criteria looks like, I'm going to walk you through a couple components of it. First one is what I talked about earlier, is software access. This means independent of a support contract with the manufacturer, you get access to any and all updates out there, whether it be just minor releases, major version upgrades, feature code updates, security updates. You get access to it regardless of what that particular update happens to be. Next component of it would be the end of software milestone date. So maybe it didn't fit the first category, but we look at when the manufacturer publishes, when the last update even deployed on those particular devices were, and again, give customers access to that, because a lot of cases that regardless of if they're even deploying updates or not, or making new advancements in the product, the OEM is going to charge you the same exact rate. Next would be end of vulnerability support. This just means this is the last date that a security update is going to be deployed in these particular devices. This is more of an FYI for our customers because regardless of your service contract, it's common in the industry, whether it be not just Cisco specific, but it's same case for all the different tier 1 hardware vendors out there. Same thing from a software perspective. If you're looking at Broadcom, VMware, same exact thing applies to them. Is that critical security vulnerability updates, those are made available to you publicly because they don't want the bad press out there that they had customers impacted by a security breach and they couldn't get access to a vulnerability update. And then last but not least would be last date of support. This is just Cisco's fancy term for end of service life, meaning like what I mentioned earlier is that you can no longer renew that support agreement with the manufacturer. And we're going to give you different milestone dates on here in terms of the support legend, what has access to software, we check the box there, what doesn't have software available to the customer, and then which dates have been reached from a milestone perspective. So jumping back into it, if I were to dig up the eligible category, there's really 2 main reasons why we're going to have devices in the eligible category. The first reason is, does that device have software access publicly? So in this assessment example right here, we can filter anything that has a checkbox on here. This means that this customer has software available publicly. And don't just take our word for it. We even include hyperlinks in here to the manufacturer's website that does in fact state on here that regardless of support contract, you get free critical updates, free major and minor releases. And again, it says right here that no support contract is required to obtain those particular software updates from a critical perspective, as well as from a free major and minor releases standpoint as well too. If it didn't fit the first bucket of it, the next bucket that we're going to track is end of software development life, which is the second category over here, EOSW. In this particular case, you have a number of different devices on here that didn't fit the first criteria, but fit the second bucket of it, meaning that in this example here, the 6506 switch, it went end of software development life on October 30th of 2021. Now, the OEM, they'll still support it till well beyond. I mean, this is the end of vulnerability security date. This is the end of service life date. So the fact of the matter is, don't wait until it comes 2025, 2027, and beyond for us to pick up support on those devices. We can provide you with the same exact type of support, or hopefully an improved level of support from what you come to expect from the OEM over the years. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing, and then I'm gonna pass it back over to John to just take the deck away.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, John. We've got a poll here that's going to be released as well. If you're interested in having a clear view assessment take place at your organization, feel free to let us know in that poll, and we'll go ahead and have a member of our team reach out to you. I'm going to go ahead now and turn it over to Jason Allen, Director of Complex Solutions, for the next portion of our deck.
Thank you, John. Pleasure to meet everybody out there. My background's on the storage side, been in TPM for 20 plus years. One of the things that I hear consistently from end users, customers, is the priority that changes. John touched on it, and it is very true. The OEM has one goal over. Excuse me. They just want you to refresh, and that is a significant cost. And if you do not, I have heard continually that the service level drops, that you no longer are a priority. You are no longer a top tier customer that gets everything they want. Our priority is you. That is the difference. That is what changes. I say TPM, I'm hesitant to even say that anymore. We are so much further than hardware, simple break fix. We are managed services. We have 100-person AEG, excuse me, L1, L2, L3. Our L3, John mentioned, minimum 15 years with the OEM. That would be Dell EMC PSE level type of experience we have. Our flexibility is what makes us really unique. You may have a equipment, let's continue with storage, and you may want to run that out for another 6 months. We will write a contract that is able to drop in 30 days if that's your requirement. We can help you move on to your next equipment. We can help you refresh. We can do multiple things as a TPM these days that we weren't able to do before. I hesitate, they call it end of service life. It used to be called end of warranty. The OEM would term that. Our ability to support beyond end of warranty is limited only by parts availability. We monitor that and track that continually. Our experience at the L3 level, I'll touch back on that. I would say, and Nicola, you may not like that I'm going to say this, we are as talented as the OEM as far as our abilities. And because we are a priority, I think the service level you see from us is beyond what you've had experienced prior. Our abilities for cost savings is passed to you as the end user. Let's be honest, we do not have to buy the iron to build the frame. We don't have to buy the ball bearings, the Seagate drives. So for us to maintain the equipment is significantly less than the OEM will charge. I'll pause there. Nicola, anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. So we're very proud of the level of engineering expertise that we have in seat. These are all Park Place employees. We have a global model, but the amount of focus we have on exceeding expectations from a service capability perspective at the engineering level is a top priority for us. As Jason mentioned, we're not building the products, but all of our investment goes into building our ability to serve those products and deliver that service model. So couldn't have said it better myself, Jason.
It's a great point, Nicola.
And I'll even expand upon that a little bit further. There's a reason why we talked about at the end of the presentation, we have 21,500 customers out there. We support over half of the Fortune 500. As you know, being in an IT service industry is that work can travel relatively quickly if you do a great job from a support perspective, as well as travel if you do a poor job from a service standpoint. We've been able to grow and fortunate enough to be able the customer base that we have because we do take service very, very seriously. And a couple tangible examples is the fact that, Jason mentioned it, but we don't outsource the engineers coming on site. They're going to be Park Place employees, want to be able to control service delivery no matter where your equipment's located at. Even if you do happen to place a support ticket, you do so via our customer portal, but we're not going to, if you already know what the issue is when you call in, we're not going to ask you to use the machine plugged in. You can go ahead and receipt the drive. A lot of back and forth on that. You send over this log file, that log file. We try to just take our customer's word for it, dispatch the part within the SLA to be able to, at the end of the day, focus on increasing our customers' uptime.
That's well said, John. The other thing we do well, and I hear consistently from end users, we're all under one roof. Anyone who's been on the late night SEV1 outage and needs a root cause analysis, it is difficult to call 3 different vendors for a server, storage, and networking background OEM. You're calling 800 numbers, you're getting all different logs. Guess what? We're all under one roof. I can get the Cisco engineer, the EMC storage engineer, and the server all on the same phone call at the same time, 24/7. We are follow the sun. We are global. So we are available 24/7 for any, service incidents you may have or experience. We also offer a first fix guarantee. Obviously, we want to make sure our parts are usable 100% of the time. We have a quality and testing facility in Westboro, Massachusetts. Parts aren't simple match the part number anymore. Sometimes they have to be cleared of serial numbers. Sometimes they have to clear life on some of them. Batteries obviously need to be charged. We do all that proactively before they go out to our parts lockers local to an end user. Badged field engineers, all of our field engineers are minimum 3 deep in your area, and they are trained on the equipment. We have a lab, and like I said, we do our quality testing, and we also have a lab in Westboro where they get actual hands-on training. I will pause there. John, anything I missed?
No, all good.
Great. From here, Nicola, I think I will hand it all over to you.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So it's again a pleasure to be here today. My name is Nicola Buckley. I am responsible for those engineering teams that Jason was describing across the world. So we're very excited to be here and really bring you through the Park Place philosophies, our focus on excellence in service, and also not only our engineering expertise, but our focus on customer and customer experience. In fact, we are so passionate about this. We've recently made a very large investment to create a customer experience focused team. And that team really are a layer on top of our building our engineering expertise and really making sure that Park Place is rationally thinking through the needs of our customers. So our customer experience starts at our entry point. We have a portal that we call Central Park. Park is the theme for Park Place Technologies. And our portal, it's a very simplified entry to all things Park Place services. Our ethos and our focus is on delivering a personalized support service. Typically, self-service is the most comfortable spot to be in as a customer, but we want it personalized. So if there's any specific methodologies that you prefer to have, picking up the phone, using chat, they're all options in terms of accessing Park Place services. We also have intellectual property that proactively monitors your hardware. So, without monitoring, you have a lot of back and forth. This happens with the OEMs also in terms of understanding logs, understanding the symptoms of the issue that you're seeing on your machine. John touched upon it, taking your word for it as opposed to going back and forth. Well, really what helps us be very, very accurate in driving first time fix, which I'll get to, and root cause is our hardware monitoring capability. So that capability is agentless. It monitors your hardware. It identifies a piece of hardware that has failed or will fail. So that's the proactive element. It will automatically create a ticket in our service platform. It will automatically identify the part number. We will dispatch a field engineer should that be your preference or not, if you prefer to replace the part yourself. And a lot of this happens without you even realizing there was an issue in the machine itself. So again, our focus really is on allowing you to drive your business, allowing you to drive your uptime, and let us take care of your data center maintenance. We've, over the past number of years, built a global infrastructure of Park Place employees. Again, Jason touched upon this, across the globe for our 24/7 follow the sun model. Again, all Park Place employees, we source our engineering capabilities from the OEM. We source our customer experience capabilities across the industries, really, again, making sure we're keeping in tune with your needs and your desires. We are so confident, I mentioned the word accurate, we are so confident in our accuracy and our capabilities that we have an industry only first time fix guarantee. So what we're saying there is that we are so confident we will resolve your issue first time. And if not, we have a guarantee that we will work with you on via credits on the contract. And then rounding out, we hear TPM, we hear end of service life, but we are a fully fledged data center services organization. I'm going to go deeper on the next slide, but our portfolio is a fully integrated approach. We have the capability of delivering hardware maintenance. We also have a professional services service offering, managed services via our ParkView capability, and we have our own intellectual property via Intuity, which is our network software monitoring capability. So to go deeper into our portfolio, from a third-party data center hardware maintenance perspective, which really is the focus of the webinar today, but not the only element of who we are. As we mentioned, multi-vendor. So we have engineering skills that span all of the OEMs, all of the products across storage, server, and network. We're in a position to deliver day one support via our NetSure Plus service. We have a first call methodology. So if you're engaged in a relationship with Park Place, but not necessarily all assets, all equipment, we will work with you on a first call basis to make sure, again, that we are driving your ability to maintain uptime and deliver your business outcomes and not have to spend time worrying about, your data center maintenance needs. We, again, have our automated hardware monitoring capability that proactively identifies faults or about to fail in a proactive way, and our first time fix guarantee. And then moving across the portfolio, managed services is another very large area for us. We have recently launched our managed services area, I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, built a follow the sun global infrastructure around that, multi-vendor, intelligent monitoring and triage, incident management, remediation and escalation. We have built out a global, what we call Enterprise Operations Center. So again, Park Place employees across the globe working with you, working specifically to your requirements. We build out what we call playbooks and runbooks that you tell us how you want to be engaged with or not. Again, back to our personalized support services and making sure that we're delivering on that uptime guarantee. John touched upon it quite quickly. With the recent acquisition of VMware by Broadcom, it's delivered a lot of FUD in the industry. There's a lot of concerns as the licensing models are changing. We have level 3, level 4 technical support expertise in VMware and have launched a service offering to drive the consistency in that service, as well as not take away that confidence that a lot of VMware customers are really having eroded confidence right now based on that Broadcom acquisition. Professional services, another service offering that we have. Traditional professional services capabilities, relocations, migrations, discovery services, ITAD, asset disposition and deployments. We have a remote hands team that we can leverage via the professional services service offering, as well as staff augmentation and wireless transformation. I mentioned Intuity. Intuity is our IP, our network performance monitoring software on-prem. We have the capability to drive network discovery, topology, event management, application patch monitoring, reporting, flow, and NBAR. So again, this is a very robust network monitoring performance software that we have and deliver services with. And then we have our hardware division, which we've called Curvature. So that is our ability to deploy and sell hardware, both brand new and pre-owned. It is vendor agnostic. We deliver sustainability in our IT solutions, plug and play. We have a pre-sales consultation services, which is free, very flexible payment options, and the ability to remotely configure based on your options and your configuration requirements. So again, the webinar has a large focus on our ability to deliver in the third-party space on a hardware perspective and end of service life. But Park Place Technologies truly is a global leader in data center services providers. And I will leave it there. John and Jason, anything you would like to add there?
Yeah, I'd like to just wrap up with a tangible example of this too. So I just showed you on the last presentation here that we can fit in a couple different buckets from a networking estate perspective: eligible, qualifying, eligible, the different reasons why it fits different stages of it. Not to say we can't support the ineligible, but based on the recommendation of where it's at within the life cycle, we're going to recommend you stick with the OEM on those devices unless you tell us differently. But after we go through this assessment stage of it here, here's the real raw dollars in terms of what they savings could be back to the business. So in this particular case, like I mentioned before, some of these devices in the qualify stage, we move up to the eligible stage of it. So the reality of it is that working with the customer, with that consultative approach, we feel that we could impact about over 2,000 of their devices. If they were to renew with the OEM, like I talked about before, that OEM list price, it jumps up a little bit more there because we're moving from a couple more devices into the quoting stage of it. So $4.1 million OEM pricing. We came in around $1.4 million annually for that same type of support. Again, hardware replacement support. You get the TAC equivalent support from a configuration assistance perspective, troubleshooting, diagnosing, how-to questions with our advanced engineers, those level 3 CCI engineers that hold the certifications from the OEMs before joining our staff. And then we even break it down to the device type on here. So if you want to be able to present this to your CIO, your CFO at the organization, you could see that the OEM pricing was this, the ParkPlace pricing was this, summarized by the model numbers of the devices. And here's the overall savings back to the business. I know, Nicola, you touched upon it. VMware is a phenomenal example of it. Is that what's going on in the market right now is, like you said, costs are increasing on average of minimum of 2x up to 9x. So if you're in that same situation because they're going to subscription-based licensing and going based on core count versus based on socket or CPU count, we could be a great cost-effective option. We're typically 30 to 40% less than historical pricing from VMware. So now with the uptick, we'll even be more cost-effective for customers. So at the end of the day, we're here to be a value-added partner for you, help you take advantage of savings after that initial 3-year manufacturer's warranty versus waiting till year 7 beyond. And we have the track record to back it up with our customer base as well.
John, this is Jason. I think a very good point, and it is worth saying. We are vendor agnostic. We are here to be a partner for an end user to work with you to find the best solution to your problem. So it does, help to say that we don't have any skin in the game other than helping the end user for the best option out there.
Absolutely. And without further ado, we'll open up to questions if anybody has any questions. I know a couple of them. If John, you want to moderate, a couple of them dropped in the chat already.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. So the first question that we had here in the chat is, can you tell us about your hardware inventory model and location of hardware warehouses?
Yeah, I can take that, and then Nicola and Jason, you could provide some additional color commentary here. But in terms of where our equipment's located at, we have 3,400 different stocking locations all over the world. And we have really a 3D model in terms of how we strategically stock parts. We'll have local distribution centers, we have regional facilities, and we have our national or global stocking facilities as well. Anytime we take on a new contract, you get sent to our logistics team. They take a look at the inventory level at the closest depot to the customer, and they're gonna stock it appropriately, move parts around. And we source our parts from a number of different markets. We source them from the same secondary markets that the manufacturers do. We also buy units from the OEM, break them down in terms of spares, and then because we even support devices that reach a certain age within the life cycle, we have a buyback program for existing customers as well. But no matter the method or methodology that we source them from, they do get tested. So our DOA rate is 0.24%. Best in class is considered a 1.4%, because quality of parts, I mean, that's a huge component of ensuring that we have the quality from a service delivery perspective as well. But because of the fact that we can provide support 190 different countries to 180 different countries today, those distribution centers located all over the world. But anytime we even quote a device for a customer, we check the box to make sure that we have the local spares as well as the facilities close to that customer to be able to abide by the SLA. So let's say it's a 7 by 24 by 4 hour response time. We want to make sure we have parts local to be able to hit that SLA with entitling an engineer to be able to come on site with the replacement part to rectify the issue within that time period.
Yeah, well said, John. If you're a prospective customer, we ask you to gather configs files for 2 reasons: for quoting purposes and to gather what local parts need to be put in the depot.
Great. We had another question here, but before we get into that, I'm also going to share one more poll. Again, just asking, after this webinar and hearing a little bit more about who we are at ParkPlace, if there's, ways you would consider using ParkPlace in the future. So feel free to contribute to that poll. The next question that we have here in the Q&A relates to software updates. And that question comes from Jeff Darren. Does ParkPlace provide software updates to our clients directly?
So that's at the end of the day, that's something that's proprietary to the manufacturer, but that's why we also break it down in terms of where it's at within the life cycle. What has public software access, what doesn't, and what has reached that particular milestone date for a customer. Look at what revision level they're currently on, last update even deployed, with a target code level that the OEM even recommends for those devices. For the devices that don't have public software access, we always recommend before you come on board to at least just download the most recent version. This way you do have access to the most current version of it. You can always deploy it down the Renault timeline if you so choose to, or give us a call for some guidance in terms of being able to assist with that deployment part of it. But unlike the OEMs, we're not going to make you update the software in order to rectify a hardware issue. We'll make sure that we support like for like parts to match your existing revision levels. And then security updates, again, critical ones, like I talked about before, those are made available to you publicly, regardless of your support contract with the OEM. But if they are public software updates, you still have to go to the OEM's website, and we can walk you through it, how to be able to get access to it via the OEM.
Great. Next question here. Is it possible to send professionals on site in case a client asks for a managed service?
Yeah,
So
I can take that one. Yeah. So essentially when we start building out our scope and statement of work for our managed service offerings, on-site is absolutely within scope. So we're very, very flexible on building out, as I mentioned, the run book, the playbook, and the expectation of what you need to achieve a satisfied managed service offering.
And I think that's one of our major differentiators out there in the market, is that it's tough to be able to find, if there even exist right now, managed services providers that also have their own feet in the street presence as well. And a lot of the opportunities that we've won over the years, they do require a little bit of both for some remote areas where they don't have necessarily IT staff local. But absolutely, we can marry them together, because we do have one of the largest field service organizations out there in the industry right now. Another major difference between us and other competitors in the managed services space is the fact that we do own our own software. So Nicola touched upon Intuity. That is a software that we did acquire back in 2019, been around for over 30 plus years. But we leverage that in order to be able to get 24/7 eyes on clients' infrastructure. But I bring that up is because you can, as part of our service offering, you also get dashboard access. There's 100 out-of-the-box reports that come along with it. We give you complete visibility to it. As part of the onboarding process, we'll make sure that you see what you like to see and make some different tweaks or modifications to the dashboards. This way you have 100% visibility in your networking estate, or your server, or your storage estate for that matter.
Great. Steve Ward asks, have you ever supported a data center relocation project by providing loaner hardware to minimize the actual move activity and then taking the hardware back from the move from location?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, flexibility is one of our major standout points in our focus on customer experience, and the fact that we have so much capability across our service offerings, that we're able to commingle some of those offerings as well. So if you think about that in the context of hardware services and then the professional services, we absolutely have that capability.
There was a question related to the OEMs and the OEMs that we have support for. Are there any major OEMs that we don't support at Park Place Technologies?
I'd say the only major one, because we do support all the different tier 1 vendors out there, whether it be we support Dell, HP, IBM, Sun, EMC, NetApp, Quantum, Hitachi, Sun, Oracle, Juniper, Arista, so on and so forth. But the only one I'd say we that's a major vendor out there that we don't cover would be Pure. And reason being is because Pure has the evergreen clause as part of it, where you get a new controller replacement every so years or so. But I'd say that's probably the only major vendor out there that we don't currently service.
And John,
just
to that.
Just to complement that, I would say we also abide by all trade and compliance regulations. So any OEM that would fall within that, we would align to that.
That's a good point. And I will also add, Pure is not a talent issue. It is a parts issue. If that makes sense to everybody.
Great. A question from Gio Stefani. We are a reseller or an MSP. We have used Park Place before for a customer. Do you sell direct to the customer as well? And then they've asked for somebody to reach out. So we'll definitely have somebody follow up with you, Gio, but I'm not sure if anybody wants to go into kind of the relationships of how different MSPs leverage Park Place as well in our tools and resources.
Yeah, I'll say that we have a phenomenal partner network. So about half of our business does flow through the channel. But part of our methodology here is to be able to protect our channel partners. So we do have a deal registration process. So if you register the account, the opportunity based on the serial number of the device, we'll ensure that you do have the protected pricing. And then moving forward, that relationship is your relationship. So any business that's uncovered after the fact, it's always driven through the channel partner. So we, again, abide by and protect our partners at the end of the day because that's one of our primary revenue streams.
Another question that came in, how do we make the data center relocation offer competitive compared to local companies that may be in the market where the data center relocation is taking place?
We are global, so we are technically local.
Yeah, we're all over the world. That's the beauty of having the largest field service organization out there in the market space is that it is Park Place engineers, Park Place technicians dispersed in 180 plus different countries out there.
Correct. Yep.
Saw a question from Altamash. How do I become a vendor of Park Place Technologies? Feel free to get started on the partner page of our Park Place Technologies website. There's a form there. You can submit your information regarding a little bit about your company and your organization and how you'd like to partner with us, and we'll have a member of our team follow up. There was a question here related to specifically to Avaya products. Most of the devices that we use are Avaya products, and these devices are normally disposed when they are out of warranty. Do we leverage these products, or can we only use Cisco products?
Sorry, read that one more time, John.
Sure thing. Most of the devices that this user uses are Avaya products, Avaya.
Yeah.
These devices are normally disposed of when they are out of warranty. Can we help support these Avaya products, or do we only do Cisco?
We do different tier one networking OEMs, so Cisco, Juniper, Arista, for example. But we do not. That's one of the OEMs that we don't service would be Avaya.
Another question that came in here. Back to John, when you had shared through the asset timeline of general availability, end of life, and then end of service life, when in the asset timeline should I consider engaging a TPM or Park Place Technologies to learn about the different support options that are available?
Yeah, I'll say from a timeline perspective, the earlier that you can get ahead of in terms of when the actual warranty is expiring in some of these devices, the better it is for you as well as us in terms of what the ramp up period will look like. And especially you can compare the actual savings when you do get that extended support agreement from the vendor out there. So I'd say once it reaches, if you're maybe 2.5 years into a life cycle and that's going to be rolling off for the next 6 months, that's a good time to be able to engage us so that we can get some pricing together. You can help prepare some of your budgets to really kind of show you the impact in terms of the overall savings back to the business.
I'm not seeing
And
any more. Go
I
ahead.
was to say something to keep in mind too is that I know we're talking about even post warranty support on a lot of your server storage networking environment. Is that what also customers leverage us for? And this is probably a separate webinar topic. Is that you don't even have to wait till year 3. Is that because of the fact that we do provide our customers tell us we provide a better level of support compared to the OEM, do it much more cost effectively. Is that when you buy a server, it's going to come with a base warranty that's built in the cost of the actual purchase of it. Then most customers leverage that warranty to be able to uplift it to a next business day or 7x24x4 response time. But we have a large customer base that buys that server with that limited warranty up front, as opposed to uplifting that with the manufacturer. They come to Park Place, and with that cost savings involved there, it's actually 30 to 40, sometimes 50% less costly to be able to have us uplift that SLA versus going back to the vendor. And you get the software updates that are made available publicly in those devices that we do it for. You get the level 3 software technical support, like Nicola walked you through as well. You get access to field engineers on site within the SLAs, local distribution in terms of parts, and we can even monitor devices as opposed to having to contact us when there's a hardware failure. Because of the fact that the monitor is connected to our maintenance plan, we can automate the entire support process for customers out there too. So don't just view us as end of warranty. Don't just view us as end of service life. We can even pick up support on day one in certain situations too.
Had another question that came in here during that explanation. Can you support end user compute devices, so printers, personal devices? How can we possibly help out people there?
We have an extensive partner network, so it's not our primary go-to from a portfolio perspective, but there are a lot of opportunities that we help our customers achieve that via an extensive partner network. So the contracting would come through Park Place, just so that it's simplified engagement for you. But we would then pass that through to our certified partners.
Great. There's no more further questions that I see coming in. So John, Nicola, Jason, anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up here?
I just want to touch back what John said. We often look, especially for enterprise level equipment, we can help with the data destruction if you need DoD standards, but we are always in the market for looking for spares. So not only could we be, 70% off the OEM list, we may buy your equipment at the end of use. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I'll just wrap up by saying thank you. We certainly appreciate everybody's time today. Thanks for attending. I know we had some good engagements, a lot of questions back and forth. I'll reiterate what John just mentioned a little bit ago. If you're interested in learning more, please visit parkplacetechnologies.com. Be able to fill out the web form on there if you're interested in getting some potential competitive pricing or exploratory information. If you'd like to do an assessment on your estate, it's complimentary, doesn't require any additional fees up front. We're happy to run that assessment for you. Or if you already know who your dedicated Park Place account manager would be, you're more than welcome to contact them as well.
Absolutely. And that pretty much wraps it up here. We thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Again, a recorded version of this webinar will be distributed via email, so keep an eye out for that here over the next day or so. If there's anything else, again, that we could do for you at Park Place Technologies, just visit our website and submit a form, and a member of our team will be in touch. Thanks again to our panelists here for providing their insight and knowledge, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Everyone.